Celtics Stuff Live.
All right, John, we're back. We're waiting on Bobby. A 45-second break, kicking it all off again. That was smooth. Not like the start of the draft show. That one was schmooth. So,
Unbelievable.
What should have been the most difficult was the easiest. What should have been the easiest was the most difficult. And here we are. So, Bobby is updating everything on Celtics blog, so everybody can find us there in case they come back in. And we're very close. What is it? See, my stream, I think, has got a super delay. I got the Blazers on the clock just now at pick 24.
That's right. Yeah, but
how many seconds do you have left?
You're not following Twitter. The problem is you're not following Twitter because it says Woj is ahead. It's way ahead of the
I'm
pick.
looking at it, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
You're not behind because you're seeing what we're seeing, but it's that I got the Twitter thing. The Twitter machine is rolling too.
Yeah. No,
so
you're right.
You're not wrong. You're with us. It's just everything else is. So
everybody's got the same numbers up here. One guard, Jacob Evans, is another one that's getting floated, but everybody's looking at Mitchell Robinson, Robert Williams, and Bruce Brown. That seems to be the three. I don't know much about Jacob Evans. Classic 3-and-D guy, not a crazy athlete. Got a little Jay Crowder comparison in here. Yeah, older guy.
Cincinnati. Yeah, which it doesn't bother me. It's good to pick older late and young early because you're picking upside and all that, but now you're trying to get players who can contribute now, and especially where the Celtics are, guy who's ready to play now is a hell of a lot more valuable than somebody you got to wait 4 years for when you're going to be in the presumably could be in the NBA Finals 11 months.
Well, in that
now.
case, why not Bates Jop? You know what I mean? Kind of get that Jerebko, Scalabrini. Yeah. Go ahead. You obviously were headed there.
That was kind of where I was going. Is I think you're more likely to see some upheaval in the backcourt than the front court. But if you're trying to say move Marcus Morris out, and you still need another combo forward to be in your front court, that's a good place to go. Guy who can play both positions. The Ringer's throwing Jerebko, Scalabrini, and Bobby Simmons out there. I mean, he's not very athletic, but he can shoot. That's that.
They write glue guy skills. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just glad. Yeah. I'm just glad they didn't say something along the lines of, the Celtics are determined to select Keita Bates Jop.
Well, that's going to happen.
And then say shades of. Poor man's Jonas Jerebko.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a good point. Oh my gosh.
Or athletic Jonas Jerebko, or athletic Brian Scalabrini. Then we have the reverse insult instead. That would have been better. Athletic Brian Scalabrini. That would have been funny.
I'm just fascinated by those what the exclamation. I know I don't know if they're adjectives, but the way that the comparisons are just fascinating that they're throwing out on the ringer. I mean, it's just you got to give credit to Kevin. I mean, KOC has done an amazing work from when we were first paying whatever it was, $10, $15. I don't know what we were paying for it to where it is now. Great work. Love that guy. Although he's our competition right now because they got a Ringer live stream, but we're not listening to that nonsense. So Evans is the highest rated. DeAnthony Melton. We should talk about that guy. So he's another one of these. So KOC's got him 19th. 6'3", kind of swing forward, shades of. Okay, Marcus Smart, Sean Livingston, Lester Hudson. 2 Celtics there in that group. Lester Hudson maybe a little less remembered than Smart, but has that kind of long lean. He's got a wingspan of 6'8", despite being 6'3", standing reach at 8'3", but just works. Work. I mean, if you're trying to find your replacement, and like we said, having that upheaval in the backcourt, if it's, Melton was a guy who didn't really get to show much of what he had because of all of the issues at USC, so he was lost really for much of the year. There's a very much Danny Ainge-esque pick in that we know Ainge likes to find these diamonds in the rough that aren't going to get the same visibility, but he finds them. And so for that reason, Melton might be exactly the kind of guy. And he's 20. He's a sophomore, but he's 20, so he's young. He's a younger sophomore.
Yeah,
exactly. So that's another name there.
Are you surprised more people haven't traded out? I mean, there's been a couple of the standard moving around kind of thing, but usually in the 20s, we see a lot of trade out or move down to the second round kind of stuff, and it seems like everybody's just sort of standing pat. Is that a testament to the depth of the draft, that there's a little something for everybody lingering around in the remaining players at the position they're picking, or?
I think
it's weird.
I think it's probably a function of the fact that there's such a level playing field from 20 and on, or 17 and on. I think that's what it's been. Is that why should I spend real draft capital or picks or what have you when the guy I get at say 27 isn't that much different than the guy I can get at 17? I think that's probably what's driving it. Whereas in that 12, 14, 15 was kind of that area where there was starting to be a drop-off and people saw value in maybe spending a little bit more to get higher up the board.
Now, what about a guy like Brandon McCoy? What happened there? Seemed like he was very much up the draft board, but leading up to the draft, he's just dropped off the face of the earth completely.
Well, I think there's a lot of those guys. I mean, Diallo was a guy who, when he came in, was thought to be a first rounder easily. Mo Wagner was a guy before the workouts, coming off a pretty strong run in the tournament, was somebody who people were looking in the 20s at. The Duke guys. I mean, whether you're talking about Gary Trent Jr. or that was a guy I thought was looking late 20s as well. I think it's been workouts. I think workouts have probably driven some of these guys further down the board. And, Shake Milton's another one who I think a lot of people thought would be a clear first rounder. And he was not only did he not have good numbers in Chicago, but didn't play well. Shake Milton was somebody I thought, boy, 27, that could be a really interesting pick there. Good, catch and shoot guy, and, maybe not athletic, but if he can drive closeouts, that might be a really nice fit for him. Unfortunately, he just didn't have the nice workouts that he was hoping for.
Mm.
Things are slowing down again.
Yep, they are. We don't have a second-round pick, which I'm kind of like, in a draft like this, thinking it wouldn't be bad. Like, you talk about that Marcus Morris, gritty guy, like we've thrown out some names. But, Justin Jackson's another one of those kind of second-round flyer guys. There's, just as I peruse through this, there are people that were high on the draft board that are just really, really fallen down in the draft. It's pretty wild.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, that's another
Gary Trent
Jr. level playing field. And when you talk about that, there's different teams that have priorities and these different ways. And we now look at an era where I was just reading this in the Ian Thompson book, fantastic book, about the turn of the decade and how that just changed everything for the NBA. And he was talking about how those Danny Ainge teams of the late 2000s had the three factors when they looked at draft prospects: the attitude, the mindset, obviously the skills, the eye test, and then you have more of the analytic numbers type stuff. So you never know what teams are going to favor any of those three methods of evaluating people, whether it's personality types, their analytics, or just the traditional scouting. So you're going to have, especially in a draft like this, a massive disparity among what teams are favoring.
Oh my. Okay, this was better. I'm sorry. Woj. Source. The Lakers are unlikely to resist Mo Wagner with the 25th pick.
Unlikely to resist.
Oh my gosh. This is a master class. This is a master class.
He is totally having fun with it. That is great.
Now remember, last year at the draft,
Celtics will not be able to help themselves with Robert Williams.
I was thinking, he just instead of writing it, he'll just do a GIF with Robert Palmer's "Simply Irresistible" and just write Robert Williams, and that's it. Boston Celtics Robert Williams, and it's "Simply Irresistible." Maybe not. I don't know. Just a thought.
That's a stretch.
So one more pick. Can you believe it? I didn't think there was any way Robert Williams got past 25, and now here we go. It's 76ers, and then if they pass up on him, the Celtics have the chance to grab him.
So, by the way,
Jared
right now, Shane Larkin,
there's another defensive wing.
Is online right now, just so you know.
He's online?
He's online right now. He is suggesting that Danny needs to sign Shane Larkin to a max. So he's advocating for himself right now, which is nice. Apparently,
dude, everybody wants Robert Williams. Huh?
He's the last player in the green room, too.
Wow. Well, here we go. I want Robert Williams, but we got one more pick to go, and
we're going to get
Sixers, just like the Eagles, my local nemesis.
We're gonna get Jeff on after the pick, so we'll get Jeff Goodman's feedback here onto the pick, which will be pretty good.
Man, it's got to be Robert Williams. Come on, man. Come on. Big upside pick. What's that?
I said the Riffs man is losing his mind. Ryan is losing his mind right now. Oh, God, oh, God, oh, God, oh, God. He tweets. Oh, this is so good. This is so great. I'm so enjoying this right now. Oh, man.
Oh, please.
Silly. Don't hurt us, Brett Brown. Brett Brown, the Mainer. Brett Brown, who lived for a very short time, about 5 minutes from my house.
No, he didn't. Really?
Rockland, Maine. Yeah, his dad was head coach of Rockland High School basketball for a time of 7 before they moved.
Figure that out.
Everybody knows everybody. My aunt teaches at the high school, or taught at the high school.
So she told you.
Yeah, she's like, Bob Brown was coaching here. So I'm like, well, that means Brett Brown was living here. So sure enough, yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I knew that. Yep.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Everyone's got a Bob Brown or Brett Brown story in Maine.
Yeah, he was born in South Portland. That's right. We got a couple of Mainers, right? Cliff.
Yeah.
Is he out right now? He's got no home, right?
He's in Orlando, so he's gonna be working with your boy
Mamba.
He's gonna do something with him. I mean, I feel bad for him because he has nothing around him, but I think Clifford. He's a guy who's worked with a lot of bigs over the years. He could really mold him into something. So hopefully it works out.
Well, whatever that health issue was, he rebounded pretty quickly then.
Okay, so Jeff Goodman could have Celtics could have 3 talented bigs on the board: Robert Williams, Mitchell Robinson, and Omari Spellman. Goodman says, "I take Spellman."
Really?
We're gonna have to figure out that's all about.
That. Where is Spellman? I don't even know who Spellman is. I'm not even gonna lie.
Omari Spellman sounds like the type of guy who should be doing my taxes. No,
6'9" height, 7'2" wingspan. He is a freshman, but he's a little bit older freshman out of Villanova. Almost 21. Hey. Stocky big man who plays hard and spaces the floor. Go ahead, Bobby.
So Jeff Goodman, who's going to be joining us shortly, is looking at 3 guys when it comes to the Celtics at 27.
Oh, you were totally tuned out then, because that hurt. Literally, John just read that tweet.
Oh. That's how locked in I am on the Twitter right now.
It hurts.
Went right over my head.
I'm going to go cry in the corner here while we wait.
So here's another Philly.
Now we're on the same page.
So I bet the Sixers take Spellman because he's with Villanova.
So David Aldridge says the Celtics, who needed a young center, will have their pick of Williams, Spellman, or Robinson at 26. So presumably somebody's got information that the Sixers took none of those guys.
Yep.
Presumably.
And the Celtics have to choose between them.
Maybe he's just off by a pick. Maybe that's what happened. I'm not sure. Yeah, Spellman, I like the way, but
Spellman's a good screener, pick and pop.
I watched a lot of Nova. Yeah, but you know what? Like, to me, I want
Williams. We need the Aaron Baines style guy.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, if no other reason than to learn under Man Bun's tutelage. You know,
Man Bun.
Got to learn how to get under stupid.
So here's what will happen. Then they'll draft Gary Trent. That's how Danny rolls.
Oh gosh,
it'll totally throw us.
Trent had some great games this year. He did have some really nice games, but man, I don't think that's the. I hope that's not the play.
Yeah,
I hope not. Oh, my gosh. Philly, just make your damn pick. I know you don't have a GM, but just make your pick. Come on.
Right. Come on. Let's get on with this. Let's get on with it. Let's go. This is like, being stuck in the left lane behind somebody who's going 5 miles under the speed limit. Like, I'm losing it now. Come on. Pull over, back into the right lane, let us pass.
It feels like we've been like 15 minutes. We've been like 2 hours. Like, we had a good run there in the first hour. There's a lot to talk about. Everything's moving.
We should have known.
And it just, there's nothing to happen in that middle round.
Well, we just broke down all the players in the draft that we even would consider at 27 that we like. Like, we ran out of runway.
The Sixers are enamored with Landry Shamet.
Here we go.
Enamored. Right. There we go. Like, Woj just going to thesaurus out, and he's like, okay, let's see.
Robert
Let me
Williams.
just tell you guys, though, we've been so locked in on Robert Williams for like 15, 20 minutes now. There's no way it's going to be Williams.
No, it's not going to be him. That's what I just said. That's why I said they're going to take Gary Trent just to throw us, right? Oh, we got a sweet shooting guard. Let's do that.
Rodion Kuric, Barcelona, Latvia. That's my guy. That's who I think they're going with. I can kind of pronounce his name.
Right, let's everybody pick totally off the wall,
Okay, there's a guy at the end. There's a guy at the end of the Ringer mock, Arnoldus Kolboka. That would be an awesome pick right there. Arnoldus Kolboka. That's pretty good.
All right, I'll go over to Kevin's because I was looking at a different one. So I'm coming down. Arnoldus.
I'm going to stick with Bruce Brown. Why not?
What about Chimezie Metu?
I don't know, maybe.
I don't know. Like, you've never even heard anybody say that before. You're just looking for good names.
I know.
A raw, moldable big man who flashes two-way upside but lacks any one refined skill aside from explosive lob dunks.
I mean, when you look at what happened with the Yabusele pick. I mean, that was totally a deal where I was out of left field, right? I mean,
yeah. But I just found Kolboka's picture. That's the worst picture that you could possibly have for yourself on a draft guide. Here, take the ball.
So Williams.
It was his homage to LeBron pointing at J.R. Smith. That's what it was, right?
Yep.
Sorry.
Take the ball.
Was Okobo drafted yet? I think he's still on the board.
No.
Out of France. Yeah.
Still out there.
So you got him at 21. You got Williams was 17 on the Ringer draft board. So those are two guys who have really slid quite a bit to 27.
Mm-hmm.
Musa out of Bosnia. Bates Diop, as we've talked about. Mitchell.
Maybe they'll take Tony
Right. So my pick, this is my board. Robert Williams, Melton, DeAndre Melton, who we talked about while you stepped off. Oh, Woj. Boston is tantalized by Robert Williams with a 20.
Oh! There we go.
What a drop.
Man, we've been talking about him since pick 13 as like the backup to all the bigs we couldn't get. You know what I mean? And then there he is at 27.
Isn't that something, though? You know, Kevin O'Connor was hot on Jaylen Brown 2 years ago, big on Jason Tatum last year, and now all I've heard is him on all his podcasts talk about Robert Williams and how great of a model he is for the modern big, and he falls all the way to the Celtics at 27. That's something.
Amazing. Amazing steal.
That's a guy plugged in.
Oh, yeah.
The Riffs man did it. Holy cow. We went from a late lottery pick to the 27th pick like that. Wow. Wow. That's crazy. That is crazy, man.
It's insane.
I cannot believe this happened.
We cannot be more happy about this draft. Knowing that we didn't have to give up a single pick to move up, and we still got one of the highest touted big men in the draft. I mean, yeah, we didn't get Ayton, we didn't get Abamba, but at 27, we got a guy who was projected top 10 last year as a freshman, right?
And I guess
top
he fits
12,
the mold
maybe.
of the jacked roster archetype. Now that I'm seeing all these pictures of him spread out up on Twitter.
Tweets, Robert Williams is a freak athlete who will give the Celtics something different. He struggled this past season on and off the court, but Boston is a perfect spot for him to mature.
What a freaking steal.
Big Celtics fan, too, from what I gather.
Really?
He is now.
Hyping up Jason Tatum last year on Twitter. I see a picture here of him in a Celtics shirt. This fits on so many levels.
Baby. That's unbelievable.
Tantalized. I like tantalized. Tantalized it. Dude, everybody's going bananas.
I mean, we're normally not this happy on draft night. This is something.
Yeah, I'm kind of weirded out about the whole thing, to be quite honest.
Yep.
Because I don't really know how to feel right now. I'm used
the last
to
Texas
not knowing it, being surprised.
From Sean Devaney, the Sporting News, the last Texas A&M potential lottery pick center who fell out of the first round was DeAndre Jordan 10 years ago.
Wow.
And that turned out okay for him. So things might not be so bad for Robert Williams. And then Chad Finn retweets with the comment, beats taking the next J.R. Giddens. So, Chad, 100% simpatico with you, John.
Wow.
We were there.
And I didn't even realize the Texas A&M connection. That was lost on me. So that's really something. Redemption. You know, the Boston Celtics are tantalized by redemption.
Well, you know, and here's the okay. So let's talk about this. So I asked earlier, like, is the right fit or whatever, and this is I'm kind of working your side of the street here, Justin. It's like, you know, at this point, like, you can have a guy sit as your 12th, 13th, 14th man, and if he develops into something more than that, great. You're sitting here at, you know, the 27th pick, and now you've got something there. But if it doesn't, you know, so what? He's a big guy you throw in there who can, you know, make things, you know, he can Hulk smash, you know. Why not? Keith Smith, by the way, source, Celtics still trying to acquire a second-round pick. They'd like to select a guard if they can get back in the draft.
Yeah, right on. That's what I was saying. There's so much depth in this draft that they totally should get in there. And there's a ton of guards
and, you know,
and wings.
You can get a second-round pick from money, really. So it's not that hard. The Warriors have done it for years and years. You pay $5 million and you get yourself a second-round pick. So they're going to do it, you know.
Here's the thing from Kevin O'Connor's guide that I think is one of the best things for us, you know, just sort of like as we talk about the overall upside sort of potential here, but played out of position at Texas A&M in a too-big offense, so will likely produce more effectively in an NBA situation, especially as a stronger, hulkier big playing in position. So there's definitely some serious, like, you know, you guys missed on this guy's possibility there. And, John, just so you know, guess what position, what number he was slotted at by Kevin?
17.
Yeah. And what was his number?
Oh, my God.
No way.
What's his number at Texas A&M? 44, which was my exit in Hamden before they changed it to the new.
Also, who else wore 44?
417.
Danny Ainge. Danny Ainge, right? I mean, that's it, baby.
Dude,
my
look
God.
at that.
This is
the numerology is back for those of you who tuned in to Celtics Stuff Live this week.
This is why they tune in for it, though. Let's be
it's
honest.
417. Look at that. It's 417.
Here's Woj.
Nobody else cares, but I'm sending you this.
I know. You stick with it. Don't change. Williams is a lottery-level talent, a player with immense talent. If he can show a commitment to playing hard, this could be a steal of the first round. ESPN's Mike Schmitz compares him to another 27th overall pick, Clint Capella. That wouldn't be so bad.
The parallels are there. I mean, I wonder how many points per possession this guy had on the pick and roll. I'd have to imagine it was something ridiculous because he was touted as maybe the best pick and roll big man in this draft.
Yeah, well, I mean, think of those lobs, man. Right? When you're throwing lobs to Horford, that's one thing. When you're throwing lobs to this freak, get out of the way.
I'm trying to see, you know, Sam Sheehan's going to be on here going crazy soon, but I'm trying to see where he had him ranked in our big board. I mean, it'd probably have to be up in the teens, just like O'Connor did.
So NBA Draft saying, hearing medical reports may have factored into Robert Williams' slide to 27.
Not scared of that, huh?
Nobody likes to hear that, but we got time for this guy.
To go from 12, 13, 14 to 27, that's worth the risk, right? That's worth the risk. 15 spots.
Here we are. Sam Sheehan and Alex Kungu had him 12th on their big board.
Yeah.
There you go.
Wow.
Sam Sheehan says, I think you could conceivably have Williams on the roster and keep Baines as well. Tice is likely already far outplayed the cost of his current contract and will enter restricted free agency after this year. Were the Celtics to draft Williams, they could give him a redshirt year to learn and work on some of his weaknesses as the fourth big. If things look good, you've got a ready-made guy to step into a bigger role when Tice leaves and a cost-controlled big going forward. Williams is the first of these possible draftees I could see as a real possibility for the Celtics to acquire. Up to this point, they've had to explain away of guys. So, yeah, I mean, all things fall into place.
Physically dominant.
On the roster next year. Or in playing time, I should say.
If they hit on, here's the other thing. They hit on him, that means they're paying $1 million to a guy. All he has to do is rebound, defend, and
alter shots situationally.
Yeah. I mean, that's all they need him to do. If he does that for $1 million a year, that's the best deal going. You know, that's an even better find than going with Tice, because with Tice, you end up with a situation where you're, you got 2 years and you're done at the minimum. You know, now you got him under control for 5 years plus. Cool. I'm happy. I like it.
This is brilliant. I mean, come on, are you kidding me? The team that's gunning for the Warriors gets a not this year maybe.
Sam Sheehan, it's time, and we got to find Goodman. So I'll find Goodman, but right now, Sam Sheehan. Boom.
Wait, hold on. Am I allowed to scream? Probably not. But hey,
Ian,
we had a we had
clearly a bust because we're both happy.
Right. It's yeah.
Ian, we just dug up the big
first
board. You had him at 12.
Yeah, he was. I cannot believe that Robert Williams A, fell this far, and that B, because when he fell that far, I thought there was like something going on, and that the Celtics might not take him or something that kind of everybody knew, kind of similar to how we saw Michael Porter Jr. fall. I mean, Robert Williams is one of these guys who's rumored to not have the best attitude sometimes, but man, he couldn't have fallen into a better situation for himself to develop, as a pro, I think under Brad Stevens, with all these other guys who are going to hold him accountable in like a championship culture. I love the fit.
Here's my concern, Sam. I actually thought we were going to be looking at like a Mitchell Robinson here, and we talked about that because I just, I thought there was no way you would get by the Trailblazers at 25 and probably need a big. Is there going to be playing time for him next year? Because you seem to indicate that if everybody's back, he's pretty much just going to be learning behind the others.
I don't really think it matters next year. Like, I think you can cut either way. I think it's good to have him on there. There's a little bit of some questions about Aaron Baines. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent, and the Celtics can only bring him back on non-bird rights, which is like 5.4, 5.6, something like that. So there's a chance he gets more than that. The Celtics still have a lot to navigate, but I mean, they've got a guy who is in the mold of one of like the two bigs that we've seen kind of survive and be worth more than these, minimal deals. It's these, you're an Anthony Davis or a Giannis or a Joel Embiid and just an absolutely dominant like big man, or you're these rim running, hyper athletic, lob threat, rim protecting big men. And Robert Williams is absolutely in that mold. I don't think he needs to play right away, which is, good for the Celtics. I think that, if you can bring back some of these guys, the Celtics don't have
Sam.
much control. Yeah.
I got to make room for Jeff Goodman because he's been trying to call in. Sit tight.
All right.
Just stay right here, and we'll pick up right where you left off. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Bring him in. That's what they say, Jeff. When you join the CLNS Network, you get a gritty entrance. Bring him in. So happy to have you on the show. Even happier to have you on the network.
Well, I appreciate that. And good way to start out. I mean, certainly a 27 pick that nobody would have expected going into tonight. I think most people felt like Robert Williams would go somewhere in the, probably 15 to 20 range at the end of the day. And listen, he's a guy that I remember a year ago. I was covering a tournament in Anaheim, and nobody knew who he was. And that's when he burst in the scene, and NBA guys were talking about him, and I was talking about him as a lottery pick. Came back to school, which was really surprising because it comes from a small town in Louisiana called Oil City, and came back, even though he was going to be probably picked in that 15 range last year, could have made a good amount of money and had a tough year on and off the court, especially off the court. Was suspended, had some issues off the court, and I think that certainly factored into him falling.
We heard some murmurs that there might have been medical concerns, too. Have you heard anything about
that? I did not. I did not hear anything of that sort, but,
all right.
I had heard the red flags were Michael Porter and Lonnie Walker. Those were the two guys that I had heard going into the draft that were the red flags.
Jeff, what does Robert Williams do? I mean, he's a different type of big than probably anybody else on the Celtics roster. And we were talking about some of your tweets that you were sending out. How does he fit into this team? What does he do different than the guys they currently have on the roster? And how do you think Brad will use him?
He's a freak athlete. He's got an NBA body already. When he plays hard and when he's active, he's really good. He's not a super skilled guy at all. Can shoot mid-range. He was at a camp I was at last summer, an Under Armour camp, and all the college counselors were there, and he kind of bailed out after the first day, which was a red flag to a lot of people. If you want to play, usually you fight through injuries, and he kind of shut it down early with all the NBA guys in attendance. So I think, he's a guy that's going to give him, hopefully will give him energy, hopefully will give him a rim runner who you can play pick and roll with. He can dive to the basket and finish. He can. He's just got to be locked in. And as I tweeted, the best thing for Robert Williams is going to be Al Horford. That's going to be the best thing for him. Honestly, if Al Horford takes him under his wing and they put that locker right next to Al Horford, which is the first thing they should do in the practice facility and at the Garden, this kid is not going to fail. He's a good kid. He's engaging. You're going to love him in terms of his personality. Again, he's just got to mature. He's a small-town kid who never really wanted to leave Oil City. Even for AAU, he didn't want to play, and I'm going to tweet out my story that I wrote on him prior to the season. He didn't want to leave, didn't want to play for the Houston Hoops for the big AAU group because he was comfortable. It was a one-stoplight town, and that's what he is. He's a small-town kid.
Is one of the comparisons we heard was Clint Capella. Do you think he's got that type of potential?
I mean, he's not quite as big as Capella, not quite as thick, but he's thick. I mean, again, he's got that body. Nobody saw this coming out of Capella. So, I think he can be a starter in the league in time, but there's a reason why he fell to 27, guys.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, there's a reason. So and again, a lot of it is probably the character concerns, the questions. But like I said to somebody today before, I was talking to somebody on a podcast earlier, and I said, the Celtics and Danny Ainge can afford to take a risk. They can afford to do it. They don't need anybody at 27 if it doesn't work out. First of all, Danny doesn't care what people think, number one. And number two, if it doesn't work out, it's not like anybody's going to criticize Danny Ainge right now.
How do you figure they start to integrate him, Jeff? Do you imagine they'll use him much on the court next season in particular with some of the other bigs they have in the fold there, considering Aaron Baines might return? Or do you think this is going to be like a longer-term development type thing?
I think it'll be a longer-term development thing. I think he's got to mature, and I think it's going to take some time, and I think Brad will make sure he earns it. And the great thing is you don't need him. You got Tice, you bring Baines back. You don't necessarily need him, but we know how injuries occur. Tice goes down this past year. It would have been great to have a guy like Robert Williams come in for energy. And again, if he plays with energy, he can be a beast. But he's got to play all the time. And I talked to one Texas A&M player about him extensively, and that's what they told me. They said, listen, if this kid, he's got all the natural ability in the world, but if he gets it and how to work and how to stay locked in both on and off the court, that's going to be the key. Who comes with him here to Boston? Who's around? Again, if it's Al Horford, they're in good shape.
How does this compare to like a pick of a Kendrick Perkins? I mean, I realize Kendrick came out of high school and whatnot, but we kind of talked about it earlier, just as far as what's the upside for the 27th pick, right? And obviously Perk wound up playing as a starting center and really the fifth most talented player in that starting lineup. But for a championship caliber club, and you just talked about Al Horford being Robert Williams' mentor, probably similar in some ways to what Kevin Garnett did for Perk. I know he loved playing alongside Al Jefferson initially, and they were real buddies, but I think KG obviously helped Perk raise his game to another level, and obviously the whole intensity thing. But does this have a similar flavor of upside, or is there more upside with Robert Williams?
Upside.
I mean, yeah.
Way more.
That's what I thought.
Robert. Kendrick couldn't catch the ball.
Perfect.
I mean, let's face it. Like, Kendrick was playing with the right guys. Couldn't catch the basketball. Like, this kid is way more talented than Kendrick Perkins. Kendrick Perkins was just big and strong and tough. This kid is big, strong, tough, athletic. Again, not skilled, but Kendrick wasn't skilled. This kid's more skilled than Kendrick. But I think we're all more skilled than Kendrick.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
you can catch the ball and finish.
You don't like anybody outside of Rondo, Ray, and KG.
I listen, we know I like Tatum, right? Yes, I did not like Rondo. I did not, and he and Kendrick were boys, and kind of understand why to some extent, but yeah, I mean, listen, the bottom line is Robert Williams has way more upside than Kendrick Perkins. It ain't even close.
So what do you ultimately imagine the finished product Robert Williams is going to look like when the time finally comes, if he's able to put it all together?
Boy, who could he be? I mean, I'd love to see him be like just a killer foreman who just goes after every rebound and finishes and you don't run any plays for him necessarily. He can make mid-range shots from 15 feet and be okay with that and buy into his role. Like, he's not going to be Al Horford, guys. Like, that's not him. It's not going to be that. He's not cerebral like that. He's not going to be great. But he can block shots. He can make up ground defensively. He can run the court and go. I mean, he can really go. So, you put him with Rozier. You put him with Marcus Smart. Now, again, is there enough offense in that second unit? You got to have like a Tatum or a Kyrie or a Hayward probably with that unit for part of it. Mm-hmm. You probably can't put out, Rozier, Smart, Tice, Robert Williams, and Aaron Baines or something like that. I mean, you can't put those three together anyway. You got to have you'd have Morris out there, obviously, with them. But I think ultimately, again, if he buys into it, his role, he can be a really good player. Is he going to be a superstar? No, but the Celtics don't need that. They don't need that. If he could be a starter for them down the road, that would be a huge. I mean, out of the 27th pick, if you get a starter, you're doing great. Really, out of a 27th pick, if you're getting a rotation guy, you're doing really, really well. And I think they've got themselves a rotation guy as long as his head's on straight.
Who do you think the steal of the draft is, looking beyond the Celtics so far? Who do you like that slid quite a bit? I looked at Lonnie Walker falling in San Antonio, and you said there might have been medical concerns there.
Yeah.
Great landing spot for a guy of his skill set, I think. Who do you think is going to be the guy that we look back on and say, ooh, he probably fell a little bit too far?
Grayson Allen, at 21 even, believe it or not. Most people would say that's going a little bit hard there, but I just think Grayson Allen come right in and help Utah right away. And, how many guys can you say that about? Kevin Huerter's probably got higher upside, but it's going to take him time. Grayson Allen's 4 years, he's tough. He can shoot. If you give him a defined role, and he never really played with a point guard, guys. That's the other part. I mean, he didn't really play when they had Tyus Jones. The last couple of years, they did not have a point guard, which is why they had to force him to play point guard. Trevon Duvall is not a point guard. They had Derek Thornton 1 year with him. That didn't work. So, to me, if you give Grayson Allen, Ricky Rubio, and say, hey, you're just going to score the ball, I think he's going to be pretty good and pretty effective. I mean, the shocking one of everything tonight was certainly Michael Porter falling.
What have you heard about that? Yeah, what have you heard about that?
I talked to many an NBA guy, and you heard differing opinions, but ultimately teams that high were scared to take him, and they felt like they had better options. A healthy Miles Bridges was better than rolling the dice, for Charlotte on Michael Porter Jr. I was a little bit surprised the Clippers didn't roll the dice since they had 2 picks there, but they really liked Jerome Robinson, and they wanted a point guard. And Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, they were able to make that trade and swap with Charlotte, and they were able to get their 2 guys. Again, Porter, the other concerns weren't just injury. It was injury and the fact that people were kind of put off by him a little bit.
We spent a lot of time talking on here about the Celtics and whether or not, how much risk. Like you said, Diddy has nothing to lose at this point. How much do you give up to move up for a guy like Porter? It seemed like they got the guy they probably needed in terms of fit. But as you know, Danny doesn't always pick based on fit. He picks on talent and all these other things. Now that we're a year after the Tatum pick, and as you said, you nailed it. I remember hearing you on the radio and on podcasts and talking about Tatum's the guy. Are there lessons for other NBA GMs that they've taken and maybe implemented in this draft to say, look, we got to be smarter about how we're evaluating these guys. When you have a player like a Jason Tatum out there, you got to go up and get him, whatever it takes.
Listen, I mean, Danny found a taker in Brian Colangelo, you know, and a lot of people love Markelle Fultz. People loved him, you know. So, again, we don't know what Markelle Fultz is going to be. Is he ever going to get his head back on straight? If he does, what will he be? We don't know that yet. So it's too early to tell. We know what Jason Tatum's going to be. I mean, Jason Tatum's going to be a stud. As I said before he ever played a game, I think he'll have a better career than Paul Pierce. People laughed at me. But, and again, he's got a long way to go. He's got a long way to go to get there. I think
but what a great
along.
starting point. What a great starting point. Just to be, you know, Paul didn't have the luxury. I know there was a little bit of a run there with Walker, but the culture that Tatum's going to be around. Right. I mean, just talk about how important that is for the development of a young NBA player.
Well, the craziest thing, and I couldn't tweet it, when Gordon Hayward went down that first game, I couldn't tweet it, but my initial thought was this is really going to help Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. But you couldn't. You just couldn't. You would have got hammered for tweeting that at that point because obviously.
Actually, I think Bobby and I talked about it on the post-game show.
Yeah,
we were looking for silver linings.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I didn't want to hear that night.
I mean, that was the silver lining for sure. It was
you had to wait a few days.
Yeah, hard to put out there at that point, but I knew what Tatum was capable of, and I just felt like he might get buried this year with Hayward, and he really might have been. I mean, he really might have played 15 minutes a game and gotten very few plays run for him. Remember, early on the season, all they did was put him in a corner. Like, legitimately, Jason Tatum, if you watch some of the games early in the season, they put him in the corner, Brad put him in, and he was just a spot shooter.
Yep.
And he made enough of them, and then he got confidence, and I'm like, this kid can do, I mean, he can do just about everything. I mean, he really can do just about everything. We've still, you know, I hate to say that, you know, it's such a cliche, but it's, you know, scratch the surface of what he can do because the game's going to slow down for him even more.
Yeah.
And, you know, the question's going to be, what's it going to be like next year when you have, you know, Gordon and Kyrie, and obviously it's not going to be Tatum's show. The ball's still going to be in the hands of Kyrie a lot more than anybody else. So it'll be an interesting team. I'm glad Danny didn't make a move tonight. You know, a lot of people were hitting me up with that. You know, they're going to trade up and get Mo Bamba. Would have been nice. Certainly you'd love to have Mo Bamba. He's better than Robert Williams defensively. But ultimately, you didn't give up anything tonight. And you got a player that hopefully can help on the defensive end, help with running the floor, bringing on a big-time athlete. And you didn't mess with the current team. And you see where this team goes next year. With everybody, and then you decide. And I think maybe you wait and you see what happens with Kawhi. And if the price goes down and you feel comfortable and you only have to give up, and only probably isn't the right word, but if you have to give up, like, you know, Jalen, and the problem is to make the numbers work, you're going to have to give up a bunch. You're going to have to give up Jalen, the Sacramento pick, Marcus Morris, Marcus Smart. Do you want to do that? I would, because I think you can play for a title next year. But then you got to worry about how the money works down the road.
Jeff, I know no one in Boston's going to be talking about this tomorrow just because it's the way it is, but Jerome Robinson, highest drafted player ever out of BC. Whew, like, you've been around both the college game and the NBA for a while now. Have you ever seen a player as lightly recruited out of high school as he was make a jump like that? Because, I mean, he goes to a hockey school pretty much and makes himself the 13th pick in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when I went in there, I remember before his freshman year going to a practice, and I cover recruiting. I mean, I know most of the better players. I had no idea who he was. And then they told me, like, he literally went to school on, like, NC State's campus, and they didn't recruit him. And I think he even played with then Coach Mark Outford's, like, son maybe or something. And,
yeah.
Or maybe he didn't. I don't remember what the deal was. But did he? He did? He played with his son in AU or something?
Yep.
And they still didn't take him. And I remember seeing him in practice that day and tweeting out, like, this is the next BC star. And nobody knew who he was. And he's an awesome kid, number one. He's humble. He's smart. And he plays smart. And to me, if BC had some bigs, we would have seen how good of a passer he was, because he couldn't be. He had to be a scorer this year. And but yeah, going that high, like I tweeted, I'm like, Jerome Robinson going higher than Michael Porter Jr. If anybody had said that, before the season, you would have better chances of winning the lottery.
Funny to think about that way, yeah.
Right. It's insane.
Going back to Williams for a sec, Jeff.
Yeah.
What do we? I mean, of course, everyone will go back now and they're going to watch film and games. Maybe the A&M games against Texas and try to figure out after the fact. But one thing Danny always seems to do is he sees more of them than obviously what all those of us who have a cable TV package see. And that is the whole picture. Yeah. I mean, like for example, the Avery Bradley. We talked about this. Avery Bradley, a top recruit coming into college or at some point and somehow doesn't get in the right system and he takes him. What did we not see in Robert Williams' game that you saw in some of those other settings, AAU or what have you, as opposed to what we're familiar with? I think they ran a lot of 2 big sets, right? A&M. So what is it?
They had Tyler Davis. Yeah, they had Tyler Davis. Okay. Both. It was a dysfunctional team. It was a very dysfunctional team this past year. Okay, and that's the hard part. Was Robert Williams a big part of that? I think he was a part of it, and I think, to be honest, it came so quickly for Robert Williams that he kind of stopped working. And he never really knew how to work in the first place. And then you start giving this kid all this attention, telling him he's going to be a lottery pick. Now he comes back to school, which surprised everybody. Because, again, it wasn't like he came from a whole lot. Mm-hmm. So you thought he'd come back to school, he'd work, but I still think he probably had a little bit of fun, maybe too much fun. And it caught up with him in college. And again, he wasn't the only one at Texas A&M. Trust me, there were other issues there. DJ Hogue got suspended multiple times. They kicked off their point guard, who they thought was going to be the point guard, J.J. Caldwell. He had multiple issues. So it was a train wreck for a good amount of the year, and then they kind of put it together at the end.
Jeff, that's fantastic insight, and I just hope that means more upside. I mean, I think the biggest concern probably for everybody on the show is I'm a lot less worried about head case scenario going to this culture than I am about injuries. Injuries is my number one concern. So as long as he passed his physical and he's 100% healthy, I'm gravy. I think I had a great night. Pick at 27 winds up being a huge potential lottery guy the last 2 seasons potentially, or at least just outside of the lottery, depending on where you had him. And you got some great insight there and a lot of opportunity for him to contribute. And, injuries has been a factor several years in a row now. So certainly he could be called upon, maybe not the same way as Tatum, but he could find with a thin front court, as the Celtics do have, he could find his way onto the floor this season. So I know your phone's probably blowing up. You're getting lots of requests for follow-up and maybe other interviews. But, man, thank you for being the headliner tonight, and welcome to the network.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it, and we'll be talking much more.
Take care, guys. Excellent. Looking forward to it, Jeff. Have a great one.
You too.
I wonder if Jeff will get a chance to sleep tonight.
Nah, why would you want to do such things?
No, the second round's not over
yet.
He
lives for this night. I know. Well, I'm waiting to see. Now, I know the live show's going dead in about 6 minutes. We got Sam on the line, so we're going to let him pick up where he was. But we got to keep an eye on Danny trading back in. I don't think we stay up all night for it, but we can run a little.
Bruce Brown's still up there. There's probably teams up here who want some, money. Who knows? Maybe even the Grizzlies right here who are trying to, cut some costs themselves. So there are teams who will take the $5 million's the most you can pay for a second round pick outright for just cash considerations. So
that's the big reason a lot of these guys fall, right? Is they're not, maybe they're good enough to be in the top, but sometimes I bet their agents, if they know they're hanging out in the late 20s, they literally tell teams, hey, look, this is what we're looking to do. Maybe they threaten to go overseas for all I know. I don't know exactly what they can pull off there. But I bet a lot of these agents force these guys into the second round. And that's why we see some of these players that, maybe several years ago would have been late 20s picks, especially some of these older, more experienced guys that maybe play 3 years or more in college, end up making it to the second round because they want to negotiate, their salary to stay in the NBA. And then if not, they're going to go ahead and head overseas. So, Sam, what say you?
Well, first of all, I've used the time while you guys were talking to, Jeff, to do some of my own investigations into Robert Williams. We got some great tweets here. He says, if you sexy and you know it, retweet it, and then in a parenthetical, everyone. So that's the positivity that Robert Williams brings to the team right there. That's my expert draft analysis. Reading the tweets, seeing who can post on this team, because this is a team of posters. As John, you found that out actually earlier this week with Marcus Smart kind of reaching out through the ether to present you with some swag. So you know the value of having a poster on the team.
When you have a key player extremely online like that, it changes the dynamic for everybody. Let's be honest, it touches
exactly
us all.
What we're looking at. Yeah, and that's exactly what we're looking at with Robert Williams. I wanted to make this clear because I feel like I kind of left you guys out in the ether a little bit with that. When I was saying Robert Williams is sliding a little, I kind of meant that it was a head case. I didn't mean to allude that he was injury prone or anything like that. I think there's been some off court stuff with him, and as you guys were talking about with Jeff, I think that's that was the worry for some teams is that he might not put in the work, or that some of these other things he might grow a little complacent, and he might have. I'd even taken over the top pick, and I guess he still might, but it just seems a lot less likely. That risk seems to be heavily mitigated by stepping into a culture like the Celtics and an infrastructure like the Celtics, late in the first round. So I couldn't be happy enough about the pick, and we'll see what they can do. I would not be. I wrote in the thing. I've seen. Bernardoni was on this early. Ryan Bernardoni had Danger Cart that he expected the Celtics to buy a second round pick. The Celtics, they might sign Jabari Bird this year to a minimum, and then they would have that extra two-way spot. So it kind of makes sense for them to kind of see who's out there, especially just given some of the quality of the guys that are still on the board. I'm looking at Woj's things, and they're still we're looking at. I'm pretty sure Kyrie Thomas is still on the board. It's looking like at this point.
Yep, Bruce Brown too.
Another guy. I don't think has Melvin Frazier gotten off the board yet. I don't think so. I don't really see him. So those are all solid wings and all guys that I thought the Celtics would take a long, hard look at. With their own picks. So there's a lot of, the chances are that one of them, generally teams don't sell picks, in the 30s, really, but there's, a decent chance one of these guys, slides into the 40s, and we could see the Celtics, reach out and try and get one of those guys. And, I think that's smart because I think that this is actually kind of a deep draft as far as, that fourth tier, fifth tier of guy who, have a chance to be rotation players. I think they do go pretty far into the second round with some of these quality guys. So I think that would be smart for the Celtics to, at least explore that.
One thing I heard is that because Golden State's purchase of the second rounder, the Jordan Bell second rounder last year, just before, we took the Ojale factory foreman, that there was kind of a bad taste in the mouths of NBA GMs, and they want to try, or maybe owners more specifically, and they want to try to avoid that. Maybe it's just a 30s thing, Maybe they want, if it's a little bit later, they're not as concerned. Let's hope so. I think there's still a lot of guys on the board that can help and can be that kind of defensive player that You can take as your 14th, 15th guy, or I guess 17th guy in this case, and roll with that. So, and just so I understand what you were saying, Sam. So you think Daniel Jerkart thinks that they'll sign they'll sign Bird to the minimum but let Allen go. Is that kind of what he was thinking?
Yeah, or something like that. Jabari Bird's probably outplayed that two-way contract at this point. I don't know if the Celtics don't re-sign him, maybe someone else will. I think everyone would kind of, I think everyone's kind of on the same page that, he might be an upgrade over, Abdel Nader. So if it came down to one of those two guys, there's a little bit of a guarantee on Nader's deal, but not much. So if you need to pick and choose there, you could. But yeah, even if you don't, I doubt Greg Monroe's going to be back, so that's a roster spot you're going to have. I expect them to have, who knows what's going to happen with Marcus. I still think Marcus is going to be back.
Me too.
But, if he's not back, that's another, spot that you might have. And I really, I'm not sure we're done. You know what I'm saying? Just because we get through the draft without something crazy happening, it doesn't mean that, the summer's over. Something could happen in the summer, particularly with like Marcus Morris and Terry Rozier, kind of the two guys I'm looking at as possibly being on the move just because of role and contract situations and what's going on respectively with those guys. Morris in particular, just because I think that Gordon Hayward's minutes pretty squarely transition from Morris to Hayward, and you can't really reduce Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum's minutes at this point, or at least very much. So Morris stands to lose the lion's share of those minutes, and I don't know. I love Flaskett, but I just don't think he's the type of guy who's going to kind of take that laying down. Maybe he'll surprise me and be a good soldier. But,
well, no, in the front, everything makes sense. We got reporting that this doesn't insult Baines at all. Mm-hmm. Probably still something to come together. It seems like sides have interest in reconciling the contract there. You'll have Tom coming back from his injury, and then you'll have Robert Williams as insurance. And if, as Jeff Goodman says, is going to be more of a long-term pick, it all kind of comes together going into next year. So we'll probably see some of Williams up in Maine, I'd imagine. Not too much of them next year. Long-term, this is electric. We were saying before you got on here, Sam, it's been a while since we were like this happy, this deep into the draft with the Celtics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had, this is literally the first time I've been happy with a Celtics pick since Jared Sullinger. And I was wrong on every single one of them in between there. I was wrong on every single one of them by being unhappy with every single pick they made between them. Like Kelly Olynyk, he was not Giannis, but he was a great pick. Other than that, Terry obviously was an excellent pick. Marcus has worked out wonderfully. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Luckily, I loved them, and you can't find any counter evidence to that anywhere on the internet. Please don't at me. Please stop outing me. So, there's this is like the first time, the Celtics have kind of done the what the Celtics believe, the Celtics brain trust believe is best lines up with public opinion. And I think that bodes well. It always bodes well when the Celtics pick someone because usually they trust their guys. But we'll see. This is actually a pretty similar situation to Sullinger, albeit that he was sliding for a very different reason, and he was a much higher rated prospect in his class. But he's another guy who fell to the Celtics kind of unexpectedly in the 20s, and was a big, well-pedigreed, big, sort of coming out of college. So a lot of similarities to that. Luckily, it's not injuries because that's kind of what derailed Jared Sullinger's career, among other things, I guess. And to have Robert Williams, just being athletically sound, as he's just got that thick, jacked frame. I don't know if you guys have seen the picture of him just wearing these massive chains and doing pull-ups,
awesome.
And he's just ripped. Yeah, he's a solid dude. As Jeff said, he's not quite as long or tall as you might want out of a center, but I'm not particularly worried about that just because he's so strong. And I just, we've seen Marcus Smart kind of prove, what a guy can do with just on strength. Even if you're not long enough, Marcus is, long in the arms, but he's just not tall. And it's really cool to see, Robert Williams slide to this. Shout out to the Riffs man who posted this into existence.
It's unreal. It's unreal how the Riffs man has made so many things happen this year through just being online. It's crazy. Like
you posted it into existence. It's incredible.
We really can't make it up. This is the world we are in 2018, where just talking about thick jack frames makes things happen. It's remarkable.
It's remarkable.
Wow. And the thing about Williams, if you bring him into this and he becomes that rim runner, there's just so much that they're going to be able to do around that. And let's look at Houston. If Houston becomes the new, what they can do with Capella, if you can eventually create the new Celtics offense around, having that type of, freak talent in the middle, it's proof that you can make this work without needing an Al Horford who can, do all those things. I'm not saying we don't want Al Horford, but I mean, you guys understand what I mean. Just the ability to operate an offense without, someone whose only role is putbacks and setting bone channeling screens.
Well, Stevens has been running sets with players of that mold for quite some time now in Boston, because there are a lot of pick and rolls going back to even Tyler Zeller, the strong year he had under Stevens. Nowhere near the physical force that Williams is. And then you have a year with Amir Johnson giving you those 10-10 games. He was kind of broken down as he got to the Celtics. So, guys who are nowhere near the physical stature of Williams were playing great in that same role for Boston for, Stevens' first few years here. You have a creator like Kyrie Irving. You have so many guys who can run the pick and roll here. So think of what that does for a guy who's going to be on the receiving end of the pick and roll like Williams.
Yeah, and I think you guys, I heard you guys, someone brought it up when you guys were talking to Jeff earlier, and that's important, is the Celtics don't have another big profiles like him. They have a lot of other bigs. Al Horford is a skilled big and also a mobile big. Aaron Baines is like a solid and surprisingly it's switchy big, like a guy who can survive. And, Daniel Tice is, sort of that stretch lob threat guy. He's probably the closest thing to Robert Williams that we have. But, Robert Williams is just pure force. He's, just athletic, strong, extremely, just plays with edge. I think that's sort of something that gets underrated when you've got that FU attitude, that Marcus Smart brings night in and night out. We've seen, just how much that can change things for the team. And, especially when you're a big man and you're battling, I think he'll have to, his problem will actually be the other way, where he's got to be careful not to get himself in trouble, biting on things or getting frustrated. But, he's not going to back down from the challenge. I am extremely excited to see some Sixers games with Joel Embiid. I want to see them see what Robert Williams can do against, Joel Embiid, and see, because I think that Robert Williams would kind of love that challenge, and he seems like a guy who would not, shy away from, Joel Embiid, who's, a bully on and off the court, would say something mean about Robert on Twitter, and then, so I want that. I want that rivalry. Let's get that started.
I love it. I just before we wrap up with you, Sam, this is from Ryan, the Riffs man. The work it took to dodge Grayson Allen from Ted Crew and get Robert Williams is my life's work. I can now pass into the spirit realm, becoming one with the funk. I don't think you can say it better than that. That's where we are right now as NBA fans.
Funky pick.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff.
That's incredible. All right, well, I'll let you guys finish it up. I got to hop on.
I miss you, Sam.
Hop on another pod here. Yeah,
I miss you. Remember us.
Let's get on this show. Let's do it.
We got to do it. We got to coordinate it. We haven't been doing guests in forever, so.
I'll come on and yell at some point this summer to your poor listeners about posting and cap exceptions and all that stuff. People love to hear about.
Hey, look what I just found. Robert Williams, April 6, 2018. The Earth is flat.
Oh yeah, I just retweeted that.
There we go. There we go.
He knew where it was going.
Posted into existence.
Incredible. Yep. I'll post it.
We are. Right. Wow.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. All right. Take care.
Anytime.
Oh, dude. Kaufman has a final Woj tally. Zeroing in on ×2. Focused on ×3. Locked in on ×3. Everything else used once. Taking shape. Prefers. Targeting. Cleared the way to choose, determined to, fixated on, no plans to pass on, are on, has a laser on, unlikely to resist, enamored with, and obviously, our favorite, tantalized by. Beautiful.
Wow. Tantalized by. I am tantalized by. Tantalized by the combat muscles. I love it.
Yep. Tantalized by the opportunity to trade into the second round, which we're not going to stick around for. We've been rocking it over 4 hours. It's time to call it a night, I think. But it's been a great show. Great guests. Big thanks once again to Adam Kaufman from Celtics Beat. Also, the Athletics' Sam Vecini, who helped us kick it all off in the very early hours. And, of course, our headliner, draft expert, college basketball guru, Jeff Goodman, now on the CLNS Media Network. Make sure you find him here. Good and Plenty podcast, and I'm sure there will be plenty to talk about tomorrow. I can't wait to hear the inside story, gentlemen, on how things went down. There's no way the Celtics legitimately planned for the idea that Robert Williams might fall to them. And I also have a weird hunch that he just wasn't a player that they had identified as a true trade-up for candidate. You know, especially once they got down there a little ways in the draft. As we said, there were 3 options at 27 for them where they could have gone with a couple of bigs. And just because he's that projected sort of just outside of the lottery, middling, late teens, maybe even early 20s. You know, Goodman said 15 to 20. But that range of a player, it's sort of like, do we really want to give up something to move up that high? But they would never have projected him to move that far. So apparently they started looking at him at 17. So very interesting to see how that all played, or it will be very interesting to see how that played out in the background. I'm sure Steve will have some insight. I'm sure Jared Weiss will have some insight. Goodman will have some insight, maybe even Kaufman as well. But will be good to read about it tomorrow. Great job, guys.
Yeah, it was awesome. A lot of fun. I can't wait to see Robert Williams going to Summer League. It's not going to be long. We're going to see him in a Celtics uniform somewhat. Yeah. So that'll be a hell of a lot of fun.
We're going to have Jabari Bird, probably Yabusele,
Man.
Williams.
Yabu and Robert Williams. I mean, the Ojale factory is working overtime the first couple weeks of July. I love it. Mm-hmm. I love it. Combat muscles for days.
Combat muscles for day. What is it? Thick and what was the
Thick Jack frames? Thick Jack frames.
Yeah. And John, you got to shoot me a text. I mean, you got to hit me up on Twitter. I have no idea who you're talking about with Sam, but I do not want to be left out on that one.
You don't know the Rips man? Oh my gosh. Dude. Bobby, how do I leave this out? How does he not know about this? We got to help him out.
Yeah, that's like he was like the starting point of this all the weird Celtics stuff.
Yes, this is going back like 18 months. Justin, we're gonna get you up to speed on this, and you're gonna be ready to go.
Whole page for 4 hours.
just it's memes, it's names without spaces. It's no plural S's. No, it's Robert William. Well, just you're gonna have to go with me on this, but it's gonna change your life.
All right, all you're gonna do is just retweet Retweet one of his tweets, and I'll find him. That's probably the easiest path.
Got it. It's gonna happen. It's a wormhole, man. But once you go there,
I just want to see the change.
Be surprised. You'll be surprised you missed it all this time.
I'll be disappointed in myself. I'm going to go through the entire tweet history tonight while I watch videos.
I love it. Oh, this is good stuff. All right. Hey, let's do this again soon, guys. And another show Sunday, and I love it. And, free agency, trade season, it's all right around the corner. This is just the beginning, not the end.
Amen, brother. Oh, I guess that's the music, right? I forgot I was on the studio.
It's the music.
All right, we'll wrap this. Where's the outro?
Celtics Stuff Live.